Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. Right, this has just turned up, and sometimes when a piece of equipment turns up, you immediately plug into it and it is inspiring to make a video about it. Sometimes equipment turns up and I've got to make a video and I'm trying to think, how am I going to do this? What's the angle? With this, which is the BADCAT Cub V, I just plugged into it and it is instant inspiration. Now, I've been a fan of BADCAT amps and especially the Cub for a few years now. I think the last video that I did was a BADCAT Cub 3 that I reviewed on the channel. So if you're looking for a matchless style amp, and I hope BADCAT don't mind me saying that because the heritage of BADCAT comes from matchless, I don't think you can do better than this. So this is the maximum gain that you can actually get out of this amp, and I'll go through all of the other sort of tones that you can get from this later on in the video. But this is not a high gain amp at all. This is really designed as a amp that you can get on the sort of verge of breakup and then add pedals if you want some more gain to it in the front end. You can just use this as a standalone amp, and I think for a sort of classic rock and blues gig, you don't need anything more than this. But let's go through some of the tones we can get out of it. Let's clean it up. So it has that sort of classic chimey Vox sort of sound about it. And quite possibly the best spring reverb I think that I've ever heard. The reverb is like super hi-fi. So let's go through the features and I'll sort of give my opinion what is different about this and the old versions of the Cub. First of all, as the previous Cub models, completely hand-wired point to point. So this is how BADCAT started, and personally, this is what I think BADCAT do best. They do these high quality, hand wired point to point. I think recently BADCAT have gone into the more, I wouldn't call it budget because BADCAT do not make budget amps, but they've definitely made a more reasonably priced amp, and I'm guessing that they're not point to point hand wired. But this is, as I say, completely point to point hand wired. The Cub V is basically a one channel amp with a few tricks up its sleeve. What we've got here is a switch to switch between 12AX7 and EF86, a bit like some of the Matches amps. The 12AX7 is a cleaner sounding tube, and the EF86 adds a bit more grind to the tone. So let's demonstrate that. Let's switch it on the 12AX7 to start with. It sounds like this. And now the EF86. So it just adds a little bit more grind. Now, as you can see, I've got the gain on about 12 o'clock-ish, and it's just starting to break up on the EF86 tube. And if I now switch to 12AX7, with this amount of gain, I think it's a little bit less noticeable, the difference between the two valves, but you can hear it. Now, the difference between the old Cubs and this one is we've actually got a depth control as opposed to a tone control. From what I remember with the Cub 3, you could either use the treble and the bass, or you could switch in the tone control. And the tone control had like this sort of notch filter on it, so you could, I guess, sort of take out the amount of bass or add some bottom end. But with this, they've replaced it with a depth control, and you can use it in conjunction with the EQ. And you'll notice, just as I brought back the depth, it just tightened up the bottom end. Next, we've got our treble and bass control. The EQ is incredibly active, and you can pretty much sort of dial in and dial out anything you want. Isn't it always funny that as soon as you set everything back to 12 o'clock, for me everything sounds the best. Anyway, next we've got the reverb. And then, like your classic sort of Matches and Vox amps, we've got a cut control. Now, the cut control is a godsend when using something like a Telecaster. The cut control is all the way back, and the Telecaster sounds like this. it's got a bit of a harsh top end. So personally, if I was using this amp with a Telecaster, I'd have the cut about there, so about sort of 2 o'clock. If I was using a Les Paul, I'd bring the cut all the way back. Now the other new feature, we've got 2 master controls, and this is switchable, just like the EF86 and 12X7 tube is switchable. You can switch this with the foot switch that's included with the amp. So for instance, you can have your rhythm tone. And then switch over to your lead tone. The Cub V comes in 4 different variants. They do an EL34 combo, which is 40 watts. They do a EL34 head, again 40 watts. And then they do an EL84 version, which are both 15 watts. That's either as a combo or as a head. And if you buy the combo version, you obviously get a speaker in it, and that is a custom voiced BADCAT speaker. It sounds absolute killer. I'll leave all the details for the BADCAT Cub V in the notes below, so if you want to go and check it out, please do. I really hope you guys got something out of this video. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe, click on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.